I know it was unconventional tonight, but it's okay. We're leaving him tomorrow. Y'all talk about me. Sometimes we get in a hurry and we get in a rush and we'll lose it. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to lose anything God has for me. Amen? I know it was unconventional. It'd be all right. And then Jeremiah 29. We're going to start in verse. Jeremiah 29. Let's just start in 10. Might as well start at 10. Amen?
Amen.
You there?
Yeah.
Here we go. For thus saith the Lord, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good works towards you in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. And then shall you call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me, and when you search for me with all your heart. Say that verse with me. And ye shall seek me and find me, and when you shall search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord, and I will bring you again into the place hence I caused you to be carried away captive. Let me give you a little history and a background before we get into the meat of it, okay? And the chapter previous, in chapter 28, the prophet Hananiah, he had prophesied, and he was prophesying lies. He wasn't prophesying according to the Spirit, he was prophesying according to the flesh. Some of us know what that means, and some of us, come on now. So here he was prophesying that, listen, you're not going to go away captive, King Nebuchadnezzar, you're going to, just like you have won the battle of all the other ones, you're going to win this battle too. You're not going to be carried away captive. God's going to allow the children of Israel to be over and victorious in this again. Well, here comes Jeremiah, and he was not a popular man. You know why? Because he prophesied according to the Spirit, and when nobody else wanted to hear about it, they wanted to be, oh, here I'm so blessed, here just caress my ego a little bit, get me excited about the things of God, right? So here's Jeremiah, and he's telling them, hey, listen, you're going into captivity, and Babylon's going to take you over, and when you go, you're going to have to set up camp there, you're going to have to take them to your sons and daughters, you're going to have to marry, you're going to have a housing, a place to stay. And they didn't like that. They wanted to, if they were going to be held captive, they wanted it to be a short season. They didn't want it to be long enough for them to have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They didn't want to be there that long. And so they got upset about it, and Jeremiah, here he was, and literally the Lord allowed him to carry around a yoke so he could be seen across the street, a yoke of wood around his neck as a symbol of the prophecy that he had given. Well, the prophet Hananiah, he said, he reached up, and I have this saying, that he reached up and he snatched that yoke. Well, when he snatched the yoke, he broke it. And then he said these words that it was actually caused his death. He said, if Jeremiah, basically, Niki paraphrasing, if Jeremiah is truth, or if I'm truth, whichever one's a lie, let him die. Well, wouldn't you know it, 2 months later, he come up dead. That sounds like the Lord I serve. Come on now. Amen. When you hear thus saith the Lord, you better be careful with them words. Amen? And Jeremy says it all the time. Listen, thus saith the Lord, or a prophetic word, is an invitation to your destiny. That's not assurance of things to come. You have the opportunity to pray it in, or you can lay it by the wayside and let be like the dry bones that the prophet stood over by, and the Lord asked him if they could live. So you have that option. Before I get on that rabbit trail, let's go back to Prophet Hananiah. So he dies 2 months after he prophesies, and then he tells them, you know, which one that's alive will die. So now we're back on to 29, and Jeremiah, he's now told them, listen, he's written the first letter. Some have already been held captive. The first ones they come and the Babylonians come and took captive was the ones that were like the smiths, I guess you would say the ones that could rebuild the kingdom. If it need, there's this old saying that if you don't need a kingdom, you just need somebody to be able to. You don't need a house necessarily. You just need somebody with the know-how and the knowledge when your house burns down, right? And so basically, what they did was they come in and they took away the smiths and they took away the carpenters. They took away anybody that had the trade to rebuild or fortify the city. They took them away. They took away some of the leadership, what we would consider governors and mayors and, people of prominence and that had the ability to make decisions. Your true leaders, they took them away. And basically left the other ones to fend for themselves. They didn't think they could go anywhere or do anything, basically. But little did they know, they were part of the chosen generation. Come on now. So basically, then they come back and they said, well, we want the priest and we want a part of the Levitical line. We're going to take them captive. Because see, they knew something. The Babylonians knew this much, that if we take away the ones that had the skills, then they might be devastated. But little did they know that if they come back and took the priest away, because they knew that, listen, we took their skills, but we didn't take the spirit realm or the people that had their influence there. So they come back for the second trip. Well, here's Jeremiah. He writes them a letter telling them, hey, listen, don't allow this thing to hinder you because eventually you're going to be devastated. So you need to go there. You need to set up camp. You need to allow your sons and daughters to marry. You need to have children there. And this was not popular because everybody else was saying, hey, listen, don't make your house there. But Jeremiah knew something. That eventually God was going to gather them back together and He was going to give them the true anointing, the true victory there, that He was going to call them back together. He knew that. So here's this letter that he writes to the people. And the first there in 11, and let's go back and read, it says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Now, do y'all understand what that word expected end means? A hope and a future. Yes. See, when you just read expected end, it don't mean too much. But when you say a hope and an expected future, see, anybody can have hope. It's called wishful thinking. But if you got hope and an expected future, guess what happens? You know where your hope lies in because you know the end result. Amen. Well, Nikki, why are you talking about this right now? What does this have to do with me? I'm so glad you asked. See, listen, you have hope in God and the things that He's brought you through. But what you don't realize is your future. Just like the word that come forth, everybody gets excited about the hope and the things of God and the prophetic word that has come. But less do we realize that when we pray, that we actually have answers to our prayer. It amazes me. You go to certain churches and they'll pray a prayer. When it gets answered, they're like, oh, really? They're just so amazed. Well, what was your expected future? Come on now. See, the word come forth this morning about, listen, don't give up. I heard you the first time you prayed. I heard it, and their answer is on the way. Don't give up hope. Don't release that. Don't release your future yet. See, the power of that is in our own destiny. See, we have a choice to believe or to stand in this Babylonian system that we have today. That's the world, the society on the outside. And we've conformed to it. We look like them, we talk like them, we act like them, and we go about our business like them. But the Bible says a different way of life is for us. Come on now. We're to be set apart. We're the ones that should be able to be picked out. And we've gotten so conformed to the Babylonian system that we can't be picked out no more. And so here is Jeremiah, and he's the one that's been picked out. He's saying, hey, he's going against the grain, against the flow a little bit longer. What would happen if you was to go against your grain of work? Well, Sister Nikki, I would just lose my job. Man. Last time I heard, we don't work for me, and we work for God. That paycheck you get on Friday or every 2 weeks or whatever, it don't come from the business, it comes from God. Well, Sister Nikki, you just don't know. I got bills to pay, honey. I got bills to pay too. I do know too. Come on now. I get to the place where I say, you know what? I'll do the things of God before I do the things of man. And so Jeremiah made that choice. I'm giving you an example of a man that made that choice. He was going against the grain. When the prophet Hananiah reached up and snatched that yoke off of him and destroyed it, you know what Jeremiah did? He held his peace. Shaniqua would have said, well, who do you think you is? Come on now. But he held his peace. So this thing, now you're going to take it away from me. But he held his peace.